Hi there everybody, hope you're doing good today. Today's topic is about terrorism, Homeland Security, and the Second Amendment. Bernie Sanders is my political role model. I'm going to quote Bernie here. Are you ready for a radical idea? Well, it's time for a political revolution. I've got some notes here that I referred to. Instead of saying that during every episode, I'm just going to point that out now. So whenever I'm looking off here to the left, I'll be referencing to my notes to help me through this. Now, today it's all about terrorism, Homeland Security, and the Second Amendment. Let's start with terrorism. Usually when people think about terrorism, they think about international terrorism. Like what happened with 9/11 in New York, or what's going on with ISIS, or these things in these different countries. But you know what? Most people don't think about domestic terrorism. Personally, I think that's what we really need to focus on. Instead of trying to be the policeman of the world, we need to start with our own country, protecting our own people here in America, instead of trying to go around and police the country and try to be the controller of other countries. Take a look at things like the Oklahoma City bombing. There's a lot of examples like that over the years where domestic terrorism done by Americans, there's not really a focus put there. If we block out the international thing for a while and focus here on home, then we can get a lot more things done. Look at Columbine. Look at the Aurora shootings in Colorado. There's so many things. Newtown up there in Connecticut with the little kids. You can take all these examples all across America over the years with the gun violence and see where we need to do a focus on domestic terrorism. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, when that happened up there in Connecticut, in Newtown, I thought that's when we were really going to start seeing a change. I was telling everybody I knew, when it comes to the kids, you're going to start seeing a change. And when our government didn't do anything, that's when I knew nothing was going to be done. No change was going to happen. That's why we really need somebody different to get in there to shake things up so we can focus on domestic terrorism. Homeland Security, I believe, has not done the job that was intended to be done. In 2001, when September 11th happened, you saw all this radical stuff happen with Homeland Security. Well, we have to protect our people, so all this money was poured into a new war, into doing things for Homeland Security at the airports. Millions, billions of dollars were being spent for Homeland Security. But that hasn't stopped people being found on planes or when they get off planes with weapons. It's amazing how, just the other day on the news, I was saying how people that work at airports, how they're just being able to go through the back without going through any kind of checkpoints or anything. And then somebody's been found in another part of the country where they gave them weapons to be transported. So, millions and billions of dollars a year are being blown on Homeland Security. And in a lot of ways, we're no better off than we were 15 years ago, since 2001. That money that we're blowing on Homeland Security, that money needs to be taken and spent on the next project. Changing and protecting the Second Amendment. Now, when we talk about the Second Amendment, I want to talk a little bit about what I think here. The Second Amendment is where we really need to do a lot of work here in America. Americans have the right to bear arms, but when these old white guys over 250 years ago wrote the Constitution, they never wrote it with a vision of assault weapons being made 250 years ago here. Back in those days, what you had were these single guns that shot a single shot at a time. And you had to put gunpowder in the gun. It was a process to load it to make one shot to protect yourself in things like duels, wars, fighting with Indians, things like this. This culture that we have now, a lot of what's going on in the media right now is our new culture going back to the old Wild West days, where they're wanting you to allow weapons in schools, allow weapons in government buildings, allow weapons just in the public, on college campuses, all over the place. Now, instead of doing this, what we really need to do is change and amend the Second Amendment to ban all assault weapons, but still allow guns in a home for protection. I'll tell you something, a person doesn't need a semi-automatic weapon that's used in a war to have inside their house for defense. Or if people, I don't hunt, but people that want to hunt, they can hunt with something that's single shot, or with a pistol that you hold in your hand that goes off 6 rounds, like 100 years ago. We don't need these assault weapons that are used in school shootings and mass shootings just to protect and defend ourselves. So, if we would ban assault weapons, then terrorism would reduce, Homeland Security wouldn't be needed the way it is now, and gun violence wouldn't be as rampant in our country. So, in order to do these things, we really need a change. We need a radical change. We need what Bernie Sanders and I call a political revolution. We need people in our government that have these extreme and radical thoughts outside the box so we can get some different things done and shake this country up and protect Americans the way they need to be done. Terrorism, Homeland Security, and the Second Amendment, they're all tied together. It's time for a change. It's time for some radical ideas. It's time for a political revolution. My name's Jack Truman, and I'm running for U.S. Congress.